Hey guys, so today we're going to do an overview of what HTML5 is, or HTML in general. HTML5 is the current HTML version that is being used. And we'll kind of go over just the basics. This is a very beginner level basic HTML course. And I'm going to try and keep it nice, short, and sweet, and packed with information. So let's get started. So HTML, what is it? Hypertext Markup Language. It's what the browser reads to understand formatting and flow of the web page. So when you go to Facebook, you go to Google, anything, that whole page is built with HTML elements in it. So what is it? It's a .html file. If you look at an HTML file, that's what you're going to see: index.html, about.html, contactus.html. It's all going to have a .html extension to it, and that's what the browser reads when it reads a website. So how do we start? We're going to edit the code with a text editor like VS Code, Sublime Text, or Notepad, and I'll put a link in the description for VS Code. That's what I'm going to use. And then how do you open it? Well, once you save it, you're just going to open it with Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. So the basic structure, and we'll look at this a little bit as we get into writing the code, but the structure is going to start off with a doctype HTML. That's just going to tell the browser what language we're using. We're using HTML, not XML or not XHTML. So that just defines what the document is. We're going to have an HTML document, opening tag, and closing tag. Everything starts with the open tag and everything ends with a closing tag. So in the head, which is the first element, we're going to have things like website, title, and we'll look at that a little bit, and any other tags that you want to be hidden. So these tags did not end up on the web page. These are just to tell Google and to tell other search engines what the website looks like or what the website is about. So any kind of content or little icons associated with it for iMessage or anything will be up in here and will not be displayed. Everything that is displayed is what's in the body here. So all of your code for HTML goes right here in the body tags, and we'll look at that later as well. So let's get started. Okay guys, so I have just a text editor open up here, and this is VS Code. Like I said, I'll put a description in the link in the description for you. So I have a file I just named cheatsheet.html, and we're going to build everything in here. And then I also have a web browser open that shows just kind of my cheat sheet that I made here, and this is what we're going to be building. So I'm going to open this page up with Live Server, which is an extension for VS Code that just allows me to save here and instantly see the result here. What you can do is you can just open up this folder. Mine is stored right here. And what you can do is just open up the folder, go to the file path here, and then just refresh to see your progress there. Okay. I don't think it's going to let me do it. So what we're going to start with is a Doctype tag, and a lot of this is going to autofill or try to autofill for me since I do have VS Code, but I'll try and type out like normal. So we're going to open it with a doctype HTML just to let the browser know what kind of language we're using, and we'll start off with our HTML tags, and this is going to autofill these for me. And inside these HTML tags, this contains the entire document. So the two different parts we have, we're going to have the head, and that's going to contain any information that we need the browser to see, but we don't need to be on the web page. And then we're also going to have a body tag, which is where all of our actual content is going to go. Inside of our head tag, we must have a title tag. So this, I'll show you this. It's going to be my website, and I'm going to save it here. And I'll just open this up. Stop live server. Okay, so the title tag is going to give us this text up here, my website. Our head tags must contain that, but don't need to contain anything else. Usually this will be things like what your site is about, a few keywords to associate it, and then you can also put things like style sheet links up here as well, but we won't get to that in this video. That's part of CSS styling and JavaScript files. So everything is going to be in our body here, and I'm just going to, a comment, which is not read by the browser, is the only thing you can put in here that's not displayed on the page. This is for developers to use to make sure we understand, we document our code very well, and that is just this tag is this right here, and we can put anything in here. Intro to my website. We can save it, and it won't show up here. It's only for developers to use to track their code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by going over some of the most important things, the foundations of HTML, and really HTML is just a container language. It holds and formats things inside here to keep flow. It's going to look pretty ugly, but it's just a list of things in here. It's just putting the elements in, and then you'll usually style it dynamically with something like JavaScript, or you'll style it with CSS, and you can move elements around. But in this video, we're just going to get the actual syntax down and a few of the things you'll use the most in HTML. So let's start off with our heading tags, and I'm going to label these sections so we can easily come back to them. So headings, if you push Command / on a Mac, that'll give you an automatic comment. So that's what I'm doing here. So our headings are H1 tags, and it goes H1 all the way through H6, and we can just put in my heading. These are bold headings, and again, you'll usually style these with something like CSS, but these, I generally use heading tags, at least H1 and H2, quite a bit, as it's a great guide for getting big text on the page. So we'll just do 3 of these, and it's H1 through H6. So there's 6 of these in total. So H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. And there we go. And then I'll just paste the rest of these in. So you can see here, standard text, and then it goes all the way up, depending on what you need. Generally, I use this one the most, and I generally don't use any of these other ones. So the next thing I'm going to show you is an HR tag. An HR tag is just a horizontal rule tag, and what it does is it creates a line across the page, just a nice pretty formatting line. So we're going to use that to break up our sections just a little bit. So under this, we're going to do a section on blocks. So these would be div blocks or a divider block, and I'll label these too. So div elements. All right, there we go. That makes it formatted nicely. So a div element is just a tag that's div, and it's a divider element, and you can put anything in it. Most websites use this a lot, and it generally contains sections of text that you need. So you'll group a whole form together, or you'll group a whole list together in these, and it's just a container to hold a lot of things. It makes styling a lot easier when you get to that. Within your div tag, you can have anything. So we'll look at using a P tag, which is a paragraph tag, and we'll just put some text in here, some text inside a paragraph. Okay. So as you can see, the div does not do anything. It just creates a new line and puts a space in between here, and you could put anything in it. Now, if you put another div in here, which you can certainly do, you can nest them as many as you need to, and we'll also do a P tag, and we'll do more text inside. You'll notice that it goes to the next line because we're creating a new div and we're doing a new paragraph. Okay, so another thing I want to look at is a span tag. So we can have text inside a div underneath a paragraph tag. Okay. So what we need to know about span, a span is a non-intrusive tag that allows you to format inside of whatever it's in. So it doesn't change anything at all. As you see here, it hasn't changed this at all, but we can use this, and I'm just going to put a style here, and we're going to make the background color red. And as you can see, it just changes whatever's inside of it. That's good if you need to show a successful message or an error message, to change the color of it, to change the size of it. We can change all kinds of things, but a span is another way to call out an element in line without altering it at all. So that's a really great tool to have. Okay, so that about covers it. The other thing I wanted to do is use the BR tag, and a BR tag is a break tag, and we don't use this a lot. Generally, we'll just use a div if we're looking for that, but some paragraph that starts that, and I'm just going to put a BR tag in here that starts on another line. So as you can see, it's going to, this one stays up here because we haven't put a break tag here. So if we put a break tag here and save, it's going to push this to another line, some paragraph that starts on another line. So a break is just going to add a new line where a paragraph and a div are both going to add, a paragraph's going to add 2 lines, a div's going to add 1. So that's the difference between those. Oops. Okay. So we'll put another horizontal rule tag, and we'll put links. Definitely links are important. And we'll put this inside an H1. We'll just call it links. Okay, and a link is going to be an A tag. So an A tag has a few things. It has href, and that is going to be whatever this link references. It can be a picture, it can be another website. We're just going to do HTTPS, and we're going to do google.com, and then we'll just close it off. Because we need text inside, click me to go to Google. So now we're going to create a link here that's going to go to Google. So easy as that. You can do the same thing with buttons, and we're going to look at that in just a little bit. Let's put another comment here, as well as an HR tag. And this is going to be buttons. So we're going to have a button tag, and you can also make classes. You can also have other kinds of buttons, so we can just do this as a link, and we'll have this as a button that says click me, and we'll wrap the entire thing in a link tag. Href, and then we'll just do the same thing. We'll just copy this here. Oops. Okay. So click me to go to Google. We'll put a button in here. So we have a link that goes to Google. Now we have a button that goes to Google, and you just have to wrap it in an A tag. So the button is inside the link tag there. Okay, so that's buttons, links. We'll look at a few images, or we'll look at an image. So we'll look at image, and then we'll do an HR tag just to blah. Okay. So an image tag is going to be img, and then all we're going to have in here, source equals this. And it's whatever it is. I have this HTML5 logo inside the folder over here, HTML5 logo. But you can use a web address or anything here in the source. And then the other thing you need to have is an alt tag, and that is just what displays if the image can't be reached for some reason. So HTML logo, and then we just close it off. An HR tag, a BR tag, an image tag, and an input tag are the only tags that you don't need to have a closing bracket on. So that's an important thing to see here, is we're not going to put an end image. We're not going to put an end image tag right here because we don't need it. Okay, as you can see, it's a huge picture. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to put an inline attribute called width, and then we're going to set that equal to 100. So it's just going to be a small little picture here. If I change this file name where it can't reach it, you'll see it'll have a small picture, errors out, and then it'll display our alt tag. So if the picture can't be reached, at least you'll still have a caption there. So that's what that's for. And then I'm going to just put a div in at the bottom and give it some styling to make sure this goes up the page so you guys can see it. So do a div, and we'll give this style equals height 400 pixels. Okay, so now we can go up the page a little bit. So that's an image. We'll go ahead and add an H1 here. We'll add another HR tag here. And we'll look at lists. Now lists you're going to use for almost everything on a web page. So if you're trying to list out in a nav bar up here all your things, you're going to use a list. If you're going to list in the footer down here, you're going to put your contact information, you're going to use a list. Almost everything on a web page can be attributed to a list. If you need to put collections of information, like when you're looking at your Facebook page, and each window for a status update on your story, each one of those is going to be in a list that's going to populate. So lists are very important, and they generally come in LI tags, list item tags, as an unordered list instead of an ordered list, but generally you don't keep the tags. So I'll show you both of them. Let's do an H1 here. We'll just do lists, and we'll type OL for ordered list, and this is just going to be numbers, and each one of the items in here is going to have an LI tag. So list item 1, and then I'll just copy this 2 times, list item 2, list item 3. So all this is going to give us is a numbered list here, and then generally these are styled with CSS to take away any of this formatting here, and you can make them a little bit prettier. And then the other one we're going to have, and then we'll just copy this, is going to be an unordered list, which is just going to be bullet points, but it's the same format. So here we're having an ordered list, or an OL, and a UL here. Generally a UL is used. That's generally what most developers use here, and then they just take away the styling. They make them inline if they want to, or they make groupings of them, and all of that is done with CSS. So this is just the bare bones. It's kind of an ugly cheat sheet because it doesn't have any styling, but this is just HTML is the bare bones markup of a web page. So that's lists. Generally lists are used a lot. Those are one of the most used components, I think, on a web page. So very important to understand how they work. Use an HR tag here just to split it up, and then we'll go on to forms. Now forms are definitely another item that are used a lot. They make up the basis of signing in to your Facebook account. They make the basis of searching for anything on Google. If you're submitting your name for an entry into something, it's all made with a form. And so we're going to go through a couple of different options that you can use on a form. The form begins with a form tag, so everything goes inside. And at the end of a form, you have a button. And if the button is a submit button, that's how it knows to map everything within the form to this form, is that you contain everything inside the form tag. So the form tags are very important. And then you just use a series of labels and inputs to get what you need. So if you look here, we have a form tag, but it doesn't show anything. And again, these are styled very much differently inside of a CSS or some kind of styling. When we're just doing bare bones here, it doesn't look quite right. But I'm going to do a CSS crash course after this one. I'm going to use this same file just to show how much different this can look. So I'm going to do the same thing, keep all of these sections and style them. But that's not for this video. So we'll come in here, we'll use a label tag. And the label tag, you just put what you want the label as. So now we have a name. And then we're going to come after our name and we're going to put an input tag. And if you remember, we don't have any closing tags for the input. So it's just an opening tag here. And we're going to do type equal to text. Okay, there you go. So name, text. And we're going to do one more of these. I'm just going to copy this. We're going to do email. And that's going to be text as well. So this is something you would see on a blog page. And we'll just put a BR or a break tag in here. And that will just push everything to the next line. Again, this isn't going to be styled like what you would see on a website. But you do all that with CSS. Okay, and then we'll put, we can do a birthday, so let's do label, and we'll do birthday, and this can be, there's a few different inputs. I'm just showing you a couple. You can put numbers, you can put dates, so we'll do a type equal to, and we'll just do date. So pick your, let's go on this next line here. So we'll put a BR tag here, save, there you go. We have a little calendar to choose from. Okay, now let's do another label, and we'll do, on this label, we'll do post. And this is going to be a different input. So we're going to do a text area. And a text area, let's add a break here. A text area is going to be one of these text boxes. So we're just saying, put your post here. Post. Name, text box, date, and then post. And then we have just a few other ones here. You can put things in here like a placeholder, which would be enter your post. So that's definitely an option too. And there's a few different things in there, though for ultimate styling, you would use something like CSS. Okay, so we have a text area, and then we also can put a select list, and each one of these, we'll put a BR tag here, and each one of these is going to be an option. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a select tag in here, and inside our tag we're going to have a couple of options. This is going to be option 1, and we'll do a few of these. Okay. Option 1, option 2, option 3. And all you need to do here is just create, so instead of it being an input it's just going to be a select, and then we're going to put as many options in here as we need to. You could put a page full of them if you wanted. I'm going to put a break tag after this one, and then we're going to make a couple of check boxes. So label, check this. And then we will have a few inputs, and these are going to be type equal to checkbox. And I'm just going to do 2 of them here. Check this out. There you go. So there's our checkboxes. We'll do a BR tag here just to break things up. And then we'll do a radio button. A radio button is another just select button. So radio button. And we'll do an input of type equal to radio. So this is just going to give us a radio button to click. And you can put as many of these as you want to, and you can make them offset, so if you click one, it deselects the other. So there's a lot of different things you can do here, and then what we'll do is we'll put one more input, and we'll do it type equal to button, and we'll give this a value equal to submit form. Okay. Put a break tag here. Okay, so we have our full form, and it's going to be made up of all these things: name, email, birthday, post, this whole thing, and then we'll go through it in the end, and we'll just submit our form. You would have a back-end language or some kind of language in there like JavaScript or some server language like PHP to handle a submit form. But for now, this is just the bare bones of it. So then you would submit this into a nice user-friendly form that collapsed and looked nice and had your brand colors and everything on it. So we do that with CSS. Okay, so that's our forms. The next thing we're going to work on is tables. Now, I think forms and lists are probably the biggest ones that we use in creating a website, and they're everywhere. But tables are also definitely used all over the place. We'll put an HR tag here, and then we'll just do tables. And then we'll create an H1 tag, tables. Okay. So table is going to have a few different components. Just like our form, it's going to have a table tag surrounding the entire thing. And then it's going to have a head. So we're going to need to have a head up at the top. So we're going to use a couple of different tags for this. T head is going to have our head. And then for our data, we're going to have a few different tags, and that's just going to be TH. For table head, oops. And each one of these is going to be, let's say, first name. And we'll copy this twice. Last name. Age. So what it's going to look like, it's just going to get, and it looks terrible right now, but it's because it doesn't have any styling, but our structure is in this table or in this form. So we have that. So that's going to be our head. So that's how we know what it is. And then we'll do T body. And everything else goes inside of our T body tags. And for each one, we're going to have a TR, which is a table row. And in each table row, we're going to have a TD for table data. So it's going to be John, copy these, Smith, and we're going to have an age of 28. So this is going to give us our table head is here, our table rows and table data are here, and our table surrounds the entire thing. Let's do one more row and just do Jane Smith, and we'll make her 33. So there you go. You have a few table rows here, and generally you'd kind of put it out in the middle. You'd probably want to make sure each other one is styled a little bit differently so you can easily see the different rows. But this is the structure of that, and then you style as needed. Okay, so that's tables. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to show a few different tags. This is the structure of what most websites are based on. So it's not a lot of code. It is a lot of code, but once you understand, or once you learn A tags for links and button tags and div or divider tags or paragraph tags or H1, once you understand this, and I'll always also post a cheat sheet underneath with a lot of these on it, and you can look at them. But a lot of these, like our form, our unordered list, our image tags, our A tags, our P tags, and our div tags are probably the most widely used out of anything, because everything is styled so heavily outside of this. We generally use lists and forms for the majority of what we do. So once you kind of understand the flow of it and understand this is how this is made up, then that's exactly what it is. But these div elements, headings, links, buttons, images, and lists are pretty much going to be all you need to know for this. And then you can use your data as needed inside of here, or you can hard code it in. You can even do just a very small bit of styling and make a very beautiful website with just some of these elements or all of these elements. So these are the main elements you'll use inside of HTML. And if you want some practice building them out, just practice building a couple tables, or practice building a few lists, or practice building a few of these inputs, or go to a website and see what kind of forms they're using. See what kind of forms they're using for these. And you'll kind of get an idea if they have a text area or they just have a name input. You know, some of them will have a checkbox for keep me signed in or remember me. So a lot of these are the backbone, or these few things are the backbone of all the websites that we have right now. If we go to, actually, let's use our link here, or our button. Open link in new tab. We'll go to Google. As this is same thing. This is just a text input here. These are just buttons here. This is just links here. So, you know, if you look at some of these things, you realize this is just a footer here. So it's all based on standard things, and there really isn't much to it. Most of the styling that you see is CSS. And as you look past that, you see where the depth of the internet comes from. But this is a great place to start it, especially if you're a beginner, just to see what the layout exactly looks like. That way you can understand more about it. So the only other thing that I have is I'm going to show you commonly used tags. So I just wanted to put this on here because you won't use all of this stuff all the time. I rarely use the tables. I use the lists and I use the forms more than anything, as well as links, buttons, and images. So everything is made up pretty much out of a div. So generally you would put all of these things inside of a div or a divider, just because it makes things a little bit cleaner when you're looking at it. Instead of just putting it all right here, you put everything in a little container of div elements. So the commonly used tags that I use a lot, again, is H1. H1 tags, I use those quite a bit. Generally, I'll use a P tag, so paragraph tag. Commonly paragraph tags. There are a few other ones. There's a header tag, so that's going to be, you know, if you have a showcase up here right underneath your nav bar. But again, it's not required. It's just for the head section. it's just for the head section. It's not required. It just makes things nicer inside of your code, but you certainly don't need it. There's Nav Tags, and this would be something for a nav bar. So if you wanted to have a nav bar up here that had all your links for your website on it and anything like that, or your logo, you generally use a nav tag. But again, you don't need them. As you can see, I'm putting them all down here, and it doesn't make a difference. Actually, I'll put an HR tag here. And it doesn't make a difference here. So you can use these or you can leave them out. There's a section tag, and that's kind of like a div tag, but you would put, if you had a big showcase here, you would probably put that in a section. If you had, you know, a big about me pane down here, you could put that in a section. If you had a big contact us form with a lot of different fields on it, you could put it in a section. But it's, again, it's just to separate things out. It's not required. Sections on a page. Okay. And then the only other thing is a footer tag, and I do use this a lot. A footer tag is going to be what you have everything in your footer on, and generally you'll just copy this and put it on every page. So it's going to have your company name, your company address, it's going to have your company number, any kind of contact information, maybe your copyright symbol and things like that. Footer for a classic footer. Inside your footer, you're probably going to have a list of elements, and each one is just going to be like this. So you do use a lot of these items inside it, but I would say let's do these aren't all commonly used, so let's do other commonly used. And we'll take that off. Paragraphs are very much used all of the time. If I'm creating a paragraph, let's see, let's just do an HR here. I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to do an H1 tag, my blog post. And then underneath this, I'm going to do a P tag, and I'm just going to say, this is my first blog post today. So this is going to be a great way to do this. You would style this a little bit differently, but again, this is exactly what your website's going to look like. You're going to have a nice big title and then your content within it, and then you're going to style it as needed. So that's all I have for this one, guys. I hope that is helpful. I'll post this code or a link to this code as well as this website, or you can just open this up with the document, with the HTML document. And I hope that was good. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, leave a like, and subscribe. I'll try to answer any questions you have if I didn't go over anything enough. If you do want me to go over something else, just let me know, and I will try and get to it. I'll leave a link to this code editor in the description. And like I said, let me know if you need anything else or want any other questions answered. And thanks for watching.